Take a look at an automobile's engine. The car that you came in outside. Think about it. If you open the hood of your car and look at the engine, you'll receive a revelation of God. And some of you have been missing it for years. In that car, there are thousands of components and parts, and each one is different from the other. A battery is not a spark plug. Spark plug is not a carburetor. A carburetor is not a generator. A generator is not a piston. A piston is not a valve. A valve is not the oil pan. The oil pan is not the filter. The filter is not the steering wheel. The steering wheel is not the shift. The shift is not the ignition. I mean, everything is different. Now, the battery is a battery. So he is a leader in the battery department. Stay with me. He was created to batter. His job is to store power and release it when the terminals demand it. That's the battery's job. So he is the leader in the power department. Did you hear what I said? He is the leader in his purpose. No one else could be battery. He is the leader in the battery department. Come on, stay with me. Oh, I won't preach tonight. See, you become a leader when you finally discover who you are. If you never discover who you are and what your purpose is, you will never be a leader. You'll always try to follow the other parts in the engine, and you're getting in their way trying to be like them. That's the problem with the world. That's the problem with the church. That's the problem with the entire globe. People don't know who they are, so they're trying to be somebody else. The battery is a battery, and he is a leader in the battery department. Connected to him is a little wire called the terminal wire. There's a red one and a blue one. They also are separate components created by the manufacturer for a specific purpose, and their purpose is not to be a battery. All they exist for is to transfer power. Some of you mightn't be a battery. You ain't got the power. You just a terminal. All you do is transfer and connect people. You are a connector. That's all you are. You just connect people. When you connect people, you leave it. You connect people, you leave it. You connect people, you leave it. Andrew was a terminal wire. He was a leader in the connection department. Andrew was created to connect people. And every time God wanted some connection, he called for Andrew. Check the Bible. When the Syrophoenician woman came to see Jesus, she went to Andrew. Andrew said, I'll connect you. And Andrew said, Jesus, there's a lady outside to see you connected them. Peter was fishing, and Andrew met Jesus. Andrew went to Peter and said, Peter, come, let me connect you. And he introduced Peter to Jesus and left. Didn't get involved in it. And when Peter connected to Jesus, a proposal was born. And there's no book in the Bible called the Gospel according to Andrew. But there'd be no Peter without Andrew. Clap your hands, somebody. He was a leader. Now, every component in the engine is a leader. See, some of y'all don't understand that. You say, well, you know, how can everybody be a leader? If everybody be a leader, who's going to lead who? It shows you that your philosophy has been so corrupted by the world that you believe everybody's supposed to be a tailpipe. Every person in this room was created by God to dominate his area of influence. You are a leader. No one could carburate like a carburetor. Nobody could spark like a spark plug. Nobody could generate like a generator. And that's why we got so few leaders today. Because leaders who rule over you won't allow you to discover who you are. Because the leader might recognize that suddenly you're a battery and he's just a terminal wire. Yeah, that's nothing new. John the Baptist came on the scene and everybody thought he was a battery.
Right.
So they said, are you a prophet? Are you the Messiah? Are you Elijah? They call him all these big names. I like John. He knew who he was not. No, you didn't hear what I said. He knew who he was not. Let's read it. Come on, let's read it. The reason why you haven't discovered your leadership potential yet is because you're trying to be somebody else. And you are wired to be you. Let's take a look at John chapter. Let's see. We could read that in John chapter 1. It's an awesome thing they dealt with John. John chapter 1. Verse 19. This was John's testimony when the Jews of Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to ask him what? Who he was. That's the big question. Who are you? Tell your neighbor, who are you? That's the problem. Everyone's trying to find out who you are. Now, can I suggest something to you? Write this down. If you don't know who you are, they'll tell you. That's why it's important for you to discover yourself. Because everybody got an opinion of you, and it ain't nothing to do with who you are. The question, who are you? Look at verse 20. He did not fail to confess, but confessed freely. What? I am not the Christ. Now, first of all, John begins to answer the question, who are you, by telling you who he is not. Let me tell you why that's so vital. Some of you ain't sure who you are not. So you print your little business card, prophet so-and-so. Who told you was a prophet? Evangelist so-and-so. Bishop so-and-so. There are a lot of pastors who are illegitimate. God never called them. Let me tell you what's so good about this first answer. I am not. Because you see, the minute you know who you are not, people cannot force you into that mold. Some of you have become exactly what you're not supposed to be. Because someone who you respected told you that's who you were. And you hate what you're doing. And it's frustrating you. And there's no joy in it. Even in the ministry. Some of you are in the ministry and it's a chore. You hate it. You hate Sunday mornings. You got to go preach to these stiff-necked people all the time. You have no joy studying for no sermon. Because it's a struggle for you. Why? You're not called. But some prophet came along and prophet lied to you. Now listen to me. Listen good. If you don't know who you are, there are a lot of people around who are willing to tell you. John says, I am not the Christ. So let's clear that right now. They asked him, then who are you? And then they're going to give their opinion of the Mack truck. Are you Elijah? Now, let's be honest, friends. If they said that to you, come on, think about it. Think about you. If they said, you remind us of Elijah, you say, right on, I got the spirit of Elijah. Yeah, man. Yeah, call the newspapers. Yeah. I know you. You'd enjoy that. Some of you believe you're Elijah now. Got a couple hundred people following you, and you think you're God's great man of the hour. And you're right. Just 1 hour. John, are you Elijah? You remind me of Elijah. Oh, we'd love to hear someone say, sister, you remind me of Catherine Coleman. Oh, thank you. And the next day you see them, they had on a long white dress. I say, hey, brother, you remind me of A.A. Allen. Print these cards. Miracle meetings coming up. The spirit of A.A. Allen is here again. If you don't know who you are, you won't know who you are not. For you to become a leader, you must discover His purpose for your life. And you'll never be fulfilled until you do it. You know why so many leaders are dying from stroke, hypertension, depression, burnout? Let me tell you why. Because most of the people in leadership positions are not leaders in that position. They've been placed there by people's expectation and pressure, and now they got to keep an image that they're not, and it's killing them. They got to perform rather than live. So many pastors are performing every Sunday morning, and they're fooling the people, and the people don't want them to change because they love the show. John, are you Elijah? Boy, what a temptation to say yes. John says what? I am not. Say it loud. I am not. Come on, shake it, California. I am not. My. First, I am not Christ. Secondly, I am not Elijah. I wonder if you can tell people who you are not. I wonder if you can look in the mirror and tell yourself who you are not. If you don't know who you are, you'll try to be someone else. And believe me, friends, if you call yourself, you got to anoint yourself. Look at the next question. Now come on, folks. This is the big one. This is the charismatic one. This is the one that everybody's running after. You would think John would say yes. Are you the prophet? Oh my God. If they ask you that, woo, Lord. I mean, could you imagine? You'd, of course, use your humility and simply say, well, you know, I've been told I am. You know, I'm not, I don't want to boast, but I do have some gifts that seem to indicate this to be the case. That's you. You know, people are moved when I speak. Imagine if they believe you are a prophet. They believed you was a prophet. Imagine they believe you are the prophet. Imagine if they said, are you the prophet that's supposed to come to LA at this time? Now you know that's hard to resist. You'd go directly to the print shop. Print me some cards now. LA prophet. Why? Because you don't know who you are not. Let me say to you, don't let anyone call you into the ministry. Let God call you into the ministry. And God really doesn't have to call you into the ministry. If you discover who you are, then you start carbureting. And if you start carbureting, it's because you're a carburetor. So carburetors don't try to be carburetor, they just carburate. And they don't need a battery to tell them they're carburetor. They just carburate. And they don't need the spark plug to say, hey, you're a carburetor. I know I'm a carburetor. I don't need your confirmation. I'm carbureting. I'm being myself. Come on, clap your hands, somebody. Woo! Hallelujah. It's frustrating for a carburetor to try to be a battery. Carburetor ain't got no power. You know why it'll kill you? If you are trying to be something you're not. If you tell them you're a battery, but you're a carburetor, they're going to start sucking power out of you. And they will kill you. Clap your hands, thank God that you will not miss your call. Oh, hallelujah. John, real quick. John says, no. Everybody say no. Come on, say it loud like John. No. Say it with feeling. No. Are you the prophet? No. This man knew who he was not so confidently that he could say with great emphasis, no. Some of you have gone into the music ministry and you ain't supposed to be in no music ministry. You can't even sing. You just sang one day when the singers weren't there. And the folks who never heard singers before thought you were singing. And Mama Mabel came to you and said, well, daughter, that was good music. You know, the Lord told me while you were singing that you're supposed to be a singer. God told me a vision that you're going around the world and sing. And you believe Mama Mabel. Everybody say, no. Oh, come on, say it with feeling. No. Ask your neighbor, are you the prophet? Everybody answer them. No! Verse 22. Finally they said, who are you? Give us an answer to take back to our bishop. Who is this Miles Monroe? Always putting down America. Who does he think he is? Give us an answer so we could take it back to our committee. Oh, don't worry, I'm a sharp guy. I know what's going on. The council told us to come to the meeting and see what he says. Keep the TV on. I ain't finished yet. Boy, I'm so glad that you didn't call me. Because if you had called me, you would have recalled me. Let me just state for the record. People sometimes hear the voices coming from the third world countries speaking in this nation. And they interpret rebuke as criticism. They interpret correction as America bashing. They interpret reproof as reproach. It's a sign of a callous church who don't want to hear anything God says except what they like. But I'm going to tell you now, there are thousands behind me from all over the world coming, and they ain't coming to America, they're coming to the church. And God is not an American, but he has a church in America, and he's concerned about his church. I love this country. I thank God for the missionaries that laid their lives down in our third world nations from this country. Their bones are buried in our graveyards. They laid their blood down to preach to us the gospel that they knew, and that was all they could preach, is what they knew. And their lives became the seeds in the soil of our nations. But after you plant seeds, what happened? Trees grow. And the fruit comes back to you. I am a fruit. I've come back to feed you. And God knew the day would come when the children of the planters would be hungry. And he preserved a harvest of fruit to come and feed. You are reaping good things. Don't refuse the fruit, or you will starve to death. And there are thousands of them coming from all over the world. Receive them, for they have come to bring life. Who are you? So we could take an answer back to those who sent us. What do you say about yourself? Please underline that. You see, you got to know who you are so you can talk about yourself. Because if you don't know who you are, they're going to tell you who you should be. And you will never become the leader you were born to be. You become a leader when you realize why you was created and why you was positioned in the engine where you are, and what your purpose and goal in that engine is. And you do not overstep your boundaries, try to be somebody else. John replied in the words of Isaiah, I am the voice of one calling in the desert, make straight the way of the Lord. John says, I know who I am. I am just a voice. I almost feel like saying that tonight about myself. I am a voice to those who have been oppressed by the spirit of domination. That is why when I show up, the spirit of freedom begins to cry, deep calling unto deep. And you feel deep in your heart that this is right. Something about this is true. Created to lead, not to be dominated. John completely defied their opinions. That's why he was a leader. He knew who he was and he knew who he was not. Let's wrap it up. Verse 24, some of the Pharisees who had been sent questioned him, why then do you baptize if you are not the Christ, nor Elijah, nor the prophet? I baptize in water, John says, but among you stands one you do not know yet. He is the one who will come after me, whose lacing of his shoe I will not be worthy to untie. Verse 29, the next day John saw Jesus coming toward him. The Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. This is the one I told you about. Follow him. Stop reading. Look at me. When you know who you are not, you could appreciate other people's position without being jealous. You know why most leaders are afraid to allow other people to become leaders? Because they don't know who they are. Here was John, a man who knew who he was not, because he knew who he was. And because he knew who he was confident in his position. So he was not intimidated by another man's position who was even greater in impact and significance than he. Because John knew that purpose is the key to significance, not position. Let me explain. John was no less than Jesus. And Jesus was no more than John. Jesus could not baptize himself. It was Jesus who said about John, no greater has ever arisen. Now you think these guys is in some kind of a brownie point relationship? John says, he's so great I can't tie his shoe. Jesus says, he's the greatest one I've ever seen. You see, when leaders are suspicious of one another, it's because they don't know who they are. When leaders are jealous of one another, it's because they don't know who they are. When people are deceitful and competitive and compare their ministries against someone else's, that's a sign that that person is not a leader yet. He's sick. He is insecure. John knew who he was. I am the voice. I'm the preparer. I'm the baptizer. But there comes one greater than I. Can you say that to people around you? Can you say that to your assistant pastors? Son, you're going to be a better preacher than I. Whoa. You're going to take over this church and make it twice as successful as I made it. Oh, you don't hear that kind of stuff. The day the assistant pastor preaches and the people responded better than they do to the pastor, that's the end of the assistant pastor's ministry. Why? Because the pastor is not a leader and doesn't understand leadership. Leadership is the ability to help others discover their own ability and take responsibility for their ability. Leadership is the responsibility to release people into their own responsibility. In other words, the battery does not try to be a spark plug. He simply provides the juice so the spark plug could spark. We need a new breed of leaders today who will see the value in every human being and appreciate that they are all uniquely built by the manufacturer to lead in their own area of responsibility, and that none of us are to dominate anybody. We are not created to suppress or oppress or subjugate anybody. We are here to connect with one another and supply each joint to each joint until we all built up into the holy faith, until we run like a mean machine. God's will. Come on, clap your hands, somebody. Woo! Yes! Leadership. Well, I didn't get to the qualifications, and I didn't get to the qualities. So next time when I come back to your television, we're going to deal with these issues of how you can develop and maximize and refine those hidden talents, those buried treasure that's inside of you. God created you to lead, and therefore you are not fulfilled until you are leading in your area of responsibility. I want you to reach over right now and hold your neighbor's hands. I want you to pray for the thousands of people right now who are watching this program. I want to talk to our friends at home who have been oppressed, depressed, suppressed, and oppressed by other people's opinions, other people's threats. Wives are oppressed by husbands. Husbands are oppressed by wives. Children are under domination of brutal parents. Incest, all kinds of abuse going on. People dominating other people. We've got races dominating other races. It's illegal, ungodly. It is totally ungodly. We got people with big churches dominating small churches. It's ungodly. And tonight, wherever you are, God wants to bring about the first stage of freedom. You must be set free from the oppression of Satan. And Jesus has provided all the necessary arrangements to set you free. And you can discover who you are, why you was born, where you came from, what you can do, and where you're going in a relationship with Him. You cannot know your purpose unless you know the mind of the manufacturer. And you cannot come to the manufacturer unless you go under the control, influence, and love of the authorized dealer. Jesus came to this earth to bring you back